This video is about members of the 39ers gang, based in New Orleans, Louisiana, and these guys, 13 alleged members of the 39ers gang of New Orleans have been indicted by the federal government for racketeering and murder charges and I guess drug trafficking. And so right now there's been a 6-week trial and it's about to go to jury. Now, the reason why this group is notable is that they've been charged with about 12 or 14 murders. There's about 12 or 14 murders on the indictment against these people. One of the murders is of Renetta Lowe, who's also known as, or better known as, Magnolia Shorty. So she was killed she was in a car with another man named what's his name? Jerome Hampton, aka Man. So they were in a parked car, and I think it was either 4 or 5 members of this gang allegedly fired 50 bullets into the car, and it killed both Magnolia Shorty and Jerome Hampton were killed in that shooting. Now I believe I've seen a photo of the car, and it basically looks like Swiss cheese. So there were a large number of bullets that were fired into the car. Now Magnolia Shorty, she was married to Carl Bridgewater, and this was her husband, and he actually got murdered in 2011. So just a year after her murder, he was killed, and he just came out of prison. So I'm not sure if his murder was related to hers in any way. But his murder is not in the 13 alleged gang members of the 39ers gang were not indicted for the murder of Magnolia Shorty's husband. Now Magnolia Shorty, so the first time I heard about Magnolia Shorty, I saw her. She had a song on the internet that I saw on the internet, which was a remix of "Smoking Gun" by Jadakiss, featuring I can't remember her name. It was an R&B singer he had on the hook. So she did it. So that was a song Jadakiss made a couple years ago, and she did a remix of it, which was in kind of like she turned the song into kind of like a fast-paced kind of dance song, which is, I guess, the New Orleans type of style of music that they have down there. What's it called? New Orleans bounce or whatever. So that's what she did. Now I had no idea who Magnolia Shorty was. I thought she was just probably some one-hit wonder who made a local song that was big in a local hit. But but recently I was actually searching for a song. I was looking for a song by BG from the Hot Boys. I just was thinking of a song that he made, so I was looking for it, but then I couldn't remember. I knew it was a song by one of the Hot Boys members, and I couldn't remember which one it was, so I started looking for Turk, because I didn't remember that was BG who did the song. So I found some interviews, and then I found some interviews from Turk. And then in one of his interviews on, I think it was The Breakfast Club, he was saying something about Magnolia Shorty, and he mentioned that she was on Cash Money label and that she got murdered. So then I looked up Magnolia Shorty. Then I found out that she was shot in 2010. And then the name of the 39ers came up. So then I looked at that, and then I realized that these guys were actually they're actually currently on trial. Now, okay, so these guys, according to the federal indictment of the 39ers, they say that The 39s were an alliance of two separate gangs that were based in two different parts of New Orleans. And they say they trafficked heroin and crack cocaine from Houston to New Orleans. And the offenses that they are indicted for, that they're being tried for right now, occurred between 2009 and 2012. So all the murders that they're charged with, and the drug trafficking and so on. So the federal case, and a lot of these guys were already locked up on other charges when they were indicted. So they were already in jail or already in prison. So the FBI's, the federal government's witnesses are two members of the gang, two high-ranking members of the gang. There's Gregory Stewart, who's known as Rabbit, and there's another one, Daryl Franklin, who's known as Breezy. These guys are both informants. They both agreed to cooperate, I guess, in return for lesser sentences. And let's see, Gregory Stewart admitted to over 12 murders. He in jail. He got in trouble. During his time in the county jail. He was questioned in the trial. He was questioned about his behavior inside of the county jail. They said he tried to smuggle marijuana into the jail. He tried to use a FBI agent that he was working with to help him to smuggle the marijuana into the jail. They said he beat up another prisoner in November 2014, or he participated in the beating of another prisoner in 2014. And the assistant district attorney, according to the assistant district attorney, the two alleged gang members of the 39ers who cooperated with them, Stewart and Franklin, they were high-ranking members of the gang, but the other defendants who they're trying are lower-ranking members who, I think they called them I think the district attorney said they were foot soldiers. So, one of the defense lawyers for one of the alleged gang members said that his client was not a member of the 39ers gang, and that he didn't come from the neighborhood of either one of the two gangs that made up the 39ers. They said that he was from. The lawyer said that his client was from a different housing project in a different neighborhood. They have a lot of evidence. The feds have a lot of evidence. They have 80 wiretapped calls between the alleged gang members, and they also have recorded jail calls of the alleged gang members, because a lot of these guys were already locked up when they were indicted. Now, they also try to use some evidence from music as well. So Kid, who is a member of G Unit. Not sure if he's a member of G Unit. I think he's the current member. I don't know. He's a member of G Unit, who's from New Orleans. And in some of his songs, he mentions the 39ers, and I think in one of his videos, he's an alleged 39ers member or something, or you have some guy wearing a 39ers t-shirt in the video. So I think the government, some of the prosecutors wanted to use that in the trial. I think some defense attorneys objected. I don't know if they allowed them to use that video evidence. Is another individual, another rapper named BMG Pound from New Orleans, and I think this guy BMG Pound was actually indicted in he was part of the federal indictment of the 39ers, so he was an alleged member of the gang. he has a bunch of videos. I think they wanted to use his BMG Pounds videos as well in the court. And then there's another rapper, BG, the guy from the old guy from the Hot Boys and Cash Money Records. Of course, BG is now I think he's in prison. He's in prison right now. I know he's in prison, and I think he's sentenced to, I think he's probably, his release date might be 2020 something. So he's in prison for a pretty long time. I think it was over some a firearm charge, but again, they wanted to use his one of his songs, one of his videos. They said in one of his videos he makes a reference to a person who was who allegedly committed a murder. He says something. He mentions, the person says something to the effect of, if you cause something, my friend, or whatever the guy's name is, will shoot you 50 times. And then the guy who the alleged gunman who the person he mentioned is alleged to have committed a murder, and that person is in the video with BG. The song is Guilty by Association. So let's see, so I think the government, basically BG is, I think he's part of a separate indictment where he's a separate indictment of another alleged gang, but this time the feds didn't have a name for this alleged gang. So but they arrested BG and I think they indicted BG and several other people from participation in that alleged gang, which is based in 10th Ward, whereas 39ers, I think, were based in 9th Ward, they said. So anyway, so that's what happened to Magnolia Shorty. I don't think she was the intended target. I think so. Apparently, with when the 39ers allegedly killed Magnolia Shorty and the other guy that she was with, they were targeting the man that she was with, who was apparently a member of a rival gang. They weren't necessarily targeting her, but I guess they just fired a lot of bullets into the car, and she got killed. I guess anybody who would have been in that car at that time would have been likely to get killed. So anyway, so that's what happened to Magnolia Shorty, who used to be signed to Cash Money Records. And and New Orleans has people talk about Chicago, how Chicago is so, there's a lot. I think people talk about, they're talking about sending the army to Chicago and things like that, but actually Chicago does not have one of the highest murder rates. It's actually relatively low. It's not in the, let's say it's not in the top 10 of in terms of cities in the United States with populations of 250,000 or more. It doesn't have the highest murder rate. So the highest murder rates are St. Louis, followed by Detroit, followed by New Orleans. So New Orleans is number 3 in terms of murder rates of big cities in the U.S., followed by Baltimore, followed by Newark, followed by Buffalo. Buffalo's number 6, number 7 Pittsburgh, number 8 Memphis, Tennessee, then Atlanta, Cincinnati, Oakland, Miami, Kansas City, Stockton, California, Cleveland, Ohio, and so on. So New Orleans is a pretty dangerous city by U.S. standards. One of the most dangerous big cities by U.S. standards.